The mansion was quiet. Too quiet. Late at night, only the sound of a grandfather clock ticking echoed through the huge halls. Outside, the wind howled like it was warning someone, or maybe something. Inside, the billionaire, Mr. James Carter, lay in his massive king-size bed. But he was not asleep. Not at all. His eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling as he listened carefully. He had a reason to stay awake tonight. He had a new maid, a young woman named Lila. She was smart, careful, and quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Some of the neighbors whispered strange things about her. They said she had worked for very rich families before, and some of those families lost expensive things mysteriously. Mr. Carter never believed gossip. But tonight, he wanted to be sure. Tonight, he would test her. He moved carefully under his thick blanket, pretending to be asleep. Every muscle in his body was still, his breathing slow, controlled. He could see the bedroom door open slightly. A soft shadow appeared in the hallway. It was her, Lila. She walked slowly, her footsteps almost silent on the polished floor. She carried a small tray with a glass of water and some fresh flowers. Mr. Carter's heart beat faster. He could feel his pulse in his throat. He wondered, is she honest? Or is she hiding something? He had prepared for this moment for days. Cameras were everywhere, but he wanted to see her live up close. He wanted to see her reaction when she thought no one was watching. Lila moved closer to the bed. She didn't look at him, just placed the tray neatly on the nightstand. Her hands were steady, but Mr. Carter noticed something strange. She paused. Not because she was clumsy. No, she paused because she seemed nervous. Then she looked around the room slowly, almost like she was checking for something. The billionaire's curiosity grew. He wondered what could make such a calm, careful person nervous. He lay perfectly still, watching her. Her eyes darted to the window, then to the corner of the room. She whispered something softly to herself, too quiet for him to hear. Mr. Carter's mind raced. What is she saying? Does she know I am watching? Lila's movements were smooth, almost graceful, as she adjusted the flowers on the nightstand. Then, something unexpected happened. She opened the drawer of the nightstand, just a little, and looked inside. She didn't take anything. She didn't even touch the small notebook lying there. Instead, she just stared at it for a moment, almost as if she recognized it. Her lips curved into a small, almost invisible smile. Mr. Carter felt a chill run down his spine. Why did that smile feel so knowing? He had expected a thief, maybe a liar. Not this. Not someone who seemed to know something he didn't. He tried to stay calm, but every instinct told him this was unusual. Lila moved back, placed the tray carefully, and turned to leave. But before she walked out, she paused again. She looked toward the bed, and for the first time, Mr. Carter felt a strange connection. Her eyes, dark and deep, seemed to hold a secret. And then she whispered, just softly enough for him to hear, "You should sleep well. Tonight." The words sent a shiver through him. Mr. Carter knew one thing for certain. Tonight, nothing would be simple. And as Lila quietly disappeared down the hallway, he realized that what he would see next might change everything. The billionaire stayed under the blanket, pretending to sleep. But his mind was racing. What did she know? Why did she act that way? And what would happen next? The suspense of that night, the mystery of the young maid, had only just begun. The morning sun had not yet broken the horizon when Mr. James Carter woke. His eyes were still heavy from pretending to sleep all night. But sleep had not come easy. The image of Lila's calm, mysterious smile haunted him. Something about her felt unusual. He could not shake the feeling that she was hiding something, or worse, that she knew something about him. Breakfast in the mansion was quiet. Lila moved with her usual precision, serving juice and toast without a word. But Mr. Carter's eyes followed her every move. Today, he had decided, he would push a little further. He could not let curiosity consume him in silence. As soon as the morning chores began, he found a reason to remain in the hallway, pretending to read a newspaper but actually observing her. Leela's routine was perfect. She dusted, cleaned, and arranged things without haste. Yet something about her steps seemed rehearsed, almost too careful. Then, he noticed it, a subtle glance toward his office safe. Mr. Carter's pulse quickened. Was she going to open it? Or was it just a random glance? He needed to know. He continued to watch, pretending not to care, while his mind raced with possibilities. What if she had planned to steal? Or worse, what if she was spying for someone else? Layla moved closer to the safe, but she did not touch it. Instead, she pulled a small cloth from her pocket and carefully wiped the surrounding surface. Her fingers lingered on the handle for a second, almost like she was studying it. Then, she pulled back, wiped her hands on her apron, and began cleaning the shelves near the desk. Mr. Carter's eyes narrowed. That pause. It had meant something. But what? He was about to step forward when she turned, her eyes catching his for just a brief moment. There was no fear, no guilt, only confidence. And then she whispered, almost to herself, "Everything must be right." The words sent a shiver down his spine. Right? Right for whom? Mr. Carter felt like a stranger in his own home. His mind spun with questions. Why would a maid care about the order of his office? And how did she know what was right? Then, the most unexpected thing happened. Lila walked to his knitstand and picked up a small leather-bound notebook. She held it carefully, as if it were fragile, and opened it. Mr. Carter's heart thumped loudly. This was private, personal. Nobody but him had ever touched this notebook, but she didn't read it in a normal way. No, she glanced over the pages quickly, her eyes scanning with an almost unnatural speed. Then she closed it, replaced it on the knitstand, and left the room without a sound. Her calm, deliberate actions made Mr. Carter feel smaller than he had ever felt. He followed her with his eyes, unable to look away. Something about the way she moved, the way she handled things in his house. It was not normal. She was careful, precise, almost like she had been trained for this. And yet, there was no malice in her, only purpose. Mr. Carter sank into his chair, rubbing his temples. He realized something chilling. He had intended to test her, to see if she could be trusted. But in the process, it felt like she was testing him instead. Every step, every glance, every whisper seemed designed to measure him, to see how he would react. And in that moment, one thought echoed in his mind. This young maid, quiet and unassuming, was no ordinary employee. She was hiding something. Something powerful. Something dangerous. As she disappeared down the hallway, Mr. Carter made a silent vow. Tonight, he would find out the truth. Whatever it took. Even after breakfast, Mr. Carter could not shake the feeling that something about Lila was off. She moved through the mansion with her usual calmness, but her eyes sometimes flickered toward corners, doorways, and even the mirrors, as if she was checking for someone or something that wasn't there. The billionaire had seen many people in his life, assistants, managers, friends, even competitors. But Lila was different. There was a sharpness in her gaze, a quiet intelligence that made him uneasy. She was careful, precise, yet there was something unexplainable about her behavior. It was almost as if she knew more than she let on. Mr. Carter decided to continue his little test, observing her from the study. He pretended to read papers, but his eyes never left her. She walked past the library, then paused suddenly. He noticed her lips moving slightly, as if she were whispering a secret word to herself. His heart beat faster. What was she saying? Was it a code, a prayer, or just nonsense? Instead of ignoring the billionaire's gaze, she seemed to sense it. Her head turned slightly, not fully looking at him, but enough to make him feel seen. There was no fear in her eyes, only calm confidence. She moved to the kitchen next, but instead of starting her usual chores, she leaned over the counter, her hands folded neatly, and stared at the wall that Mr. Carter's mind raced. Who does that? Who stands in a room, doing nothing, staring at a wall, yet somehow commanding attention? The tension in the mansion grew thicker with every passing moment. He wanted to speak, to ask her what she was doing, but something inside told him to wait. To watch. Then came the strangest part. Lila walked to the bedroom again. Mr. Carter froze behind the study curtain. She opened the knit-stand drawer, but this time, she didn't look at the notebook. Instead, she pulled out a small folded piece of paper and slid it under the pillow. A small, deliberate motion. She didn't notice him. Or maybe she did. The billionaire felt a chill run down his spine. Who leaves a note in someone else's bed? And why here? The questions piled up in his mind like thunderclouds. He wanted to rush in, grab it, read it, but he stayed still. His pulse raced. Every instinct screamed that this moment was important. Lila turned around, moved toward the window, and paused once more. She placed her palm lightly on the glass, staring out at the dark garden below. Mr. Carter's curiosity grew unbearable. Why all this caution? Why all these pauses and whispers? He had begun the test, but now, it felt as though he was the one being tested. Then she whispered again, just softly enough for him to hear. You think you know, but you don't. The words echoed in his mind. What did she mean? How could a simple maid speak to him like that? And why did it feel like a warning? Finally, she walked out of the room, leaving the mansion silent once more. Mr. Carter sank into the chair, rubbing his face. One thought consumed him. This maid is no ordinary servant. She knows things. She sees things. She moves differently. And tonight I will find out why. The day went on, but the mansion never felt normal. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind, even the soft ticking of the clock seemed louder, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Mr. Carter couldn't shake the feeling that Lila's strange behavior had set something in motion, something he could not yet see, but would soon discover. And in the back of his mind, he knew one terrifying truth: the game had changed. He was no longer the one in control. The night had fallen again, but Mr. Carter could not sleep. His mind was restless, spinning with thoughts of Lila. Every action, every whisper, every careful glance from earlier that day haunted him. He needed answers. He had to know, what was she hiding? As soon as the mansion grew quiet, he quietly made his way to the bedroom. His heart pounded in his chest. The small folded note she had left under his pillow earlier in the day still lay there, untouched. His hands trembled slightly as he picked it up. Unfolding it slowly, the words written on it made him freeze. You think you understand your life, but someone else has been watching, learning, protecting. He reread it, hoping the meaning would become clearer, but it only deepened the mystery. Watching? Protecting? He had no idea what she meant. Who was she really? And how did she know so much about him? The billionaire's eyes scanned the room, searching for clues. Every piece of furniture, every drawer, every shelf he had considered private, suddenly seemed vulnerable. The mansion, so familiar to him, felt like a stranger's place. He carefully picked up the leather-bound notebook from his knit-stand, the same one Lila had glanced at before. Flipping through the pages, he noticed something he had never seen before. Little notes in the margins, tiny symbols, almost like codes. They weren't his handwriting. Someone else had been here. Someone who knew him, someone who had access to every secret he thought was private. Panic began to rise, but curiosity won over. He followed the trail of notes, symbols, and hidden markings. Each page revealed something astonishing. Names, dates, and events from his life that no outsider could possibly know. Family secrets, business deals, personal fears, everything had been documented in detail. His mind raced. How could a maid know this? The logical part of him wanted to dismiss it, to think it was a coincidence, but deep down, he knew it wasn't. Lila was no ordinary maid. She had deliberately left the note, glanced at the notebook, and left messages for him to find. Every move had been intentional. The mansion felt colder now. Shadows of furniture seemed darker, corners more hidden. He thought back to her whispers. You think you know, but you don't. Now he understood they were a warning and a test. Then, as if the universe wanted to confirm his fears, he found a small envelope tucked behind a book in his office. He hadn't noticed it before. Inside was a photograph of Lila, not just her, but with people he recognized as powerful figures in private organizations, people who had influence beyond the law. And written on the back in her neat handwriting, I am not who you think I am, and I have been protecting you all along. The words hit him like a thunderbolt. All the suspicion, all the tension, all the late-night observing. It wasn't about her stealing from him. It was about him. She had been watching him, testing him, seeing if he was worthy of trust. And the shocking truth sank in. She had been in control all along. Mr. Carter sank into the chair, speechless. He had intended to test her, to catch her if she was deceitful, but instead, he had discovered something far more terrifying and awe-inspiring. This quiet, careful, young maid was a protector, a strategist, someone who knew the hidden threats around him and had acted long before he even suspected anything. The night grew darker outside. But inside, Mr. Carter felt a spark of fear and respect. Lila's secret was finally out, but he also knew this was only the beginning. Whatever she had planned next would change everything he thought he knew about his life, his mansion, and himself. And as he sat there, staring at the photograph, he whispered to himself, "Who are you really, Lila? And what will you do next?" The mansion was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant ticking of the grandfather clock. Mr. Carter paced his study, still holding the photograph and note Lila had left. His mind was in chaos. How could someone so young, so quiet, hold so much power? He decided he couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers. He needed to know the truth directly from her. With a deep breath, he called her name. "Layla," he said, his voice steady but firm. A soft sound echoed from the hallway. Footsteps approached. Lila appeared in the doorway, calm as ever, her expression unreadable. She didn't look surprised to see him. Instead, she smiled slightly, almost knowing. "You wanted to see me, sir?" She asked politely, her voice soft but confident. "Yes," Mr. Carter replied, trying to control the tremor in his hands. I found your note. I found the photograph. I need to know what all this means." Why are you doing this?" Lila stepped into the room slowly, folding her hands in front of her. "Doing what, sir?" she asked innocently. "Don't play with me," he said, his voice rising slightly. "I know you've been watching me, testing me. I know you know things no one should know. Who are you really?" For the first time, her calm demeanor shifted slightly. She tilted her head, her eyes sharp and assessing, almost like a predator setting its prey. "You asked for the truth," she said softly. "I am not just a maid, James. I am someone who has been protecting you and your family for years. I've been watching the people around you, the threats you didn't even know existed. And I knew I had to test you, to see if you were worthy of trust." Mr. Carter's mouth went dry. His mind struggled to process her words. "Protecting me? How? From who?" "From the people who would take everything from you," she replied calmly. "From those who manipulate, lie, and betray. My job, my purpose, is to make sure that your world stays safe, even if it means acting quietly, even if it means letting you believe I am just a maid." Mr. Carter felt a shiver down his spine. He had been suspicious of her, prepared to catch her if she stole from him. But now he realized he had been completely wrong. She had been in control all along. Every pause, every whisper, every careful step. It was all calculated. "You've been testing me?" he whispered, a mixture of awe and fear in his voice. "Yes," she said, her gaze unwavering. "Because not everyone can handle the truth, James. Not everyone can handle knowing who is watching, who is protecting, and what dangers exist in the shadows. I needed to see if you were ready. If you were careful, clever, and strong enough to face it all." Mr. Carter sat down, overwhelmed. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. The young maid he had doubted, watched, and tested was not just clever, she was powerful, skilled, and fearless. And now he knew that his life, his safety, and even his secrets had all depended on her all along. Lila stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on the desk. "I do not do this for recognition," she said softly. "I do it because it must be done. And now you know the truth. What will you do with it, James?" He looked at her, speechless. Fear and respect battled within him. He had intended to confront her, to test her, to assert his control. But now, he realized he had been in the wrong place the entire time. She was the one who held the power, and in that moment, Mr. Carter knew one thing for certain: his life had changed forever. The quiet, careful maid was no longer just an employee. She was a force he could neither control nor predict. And the question lingered in his mind as Lila turned to leave. What will she do next? The mansion was quiet, but tension filled every corner. Mr. Carter could not stop thinking about Lila's words from last night. Protecting him? Testing him? He had doubted her, watched her, and now he realized he had been completely wrong. She was not a simple maid. She was something far more dangerous, far more powerful. He found her in the library the next morning. Lila was sitting calmly, arranging books by height and color. But this time, she looked up and smiled, not the polite, quiet smile of a servant, but a knowing, confident smile. One that made Mr. Carter feel small. "You asked for the truth, James," she said softly. "Now I will show it to you." Mr. Carter's curiosity burned hotter than fear. "Show me? What do you mean?" Lila stood and walked to a hidden panel behind the bookshelf. With a simple motion, the panel slid open, revealing a small, secret room filled with computers, files, and surveillance monitors. Mr. Carter's jaw dropped. The monitors showed live feeds from different parts of his mansion, garden, and even the streets outside. "You've been spying?" he asked, shocked. "Not spying," Lila corrected calmly. "Observing, protecting, every threat, every suspicious person, every risk. I monitor it all. And more importantly, I intervene when necessary. Your life, your business, your family, they are safe because of what I do." Mr. Carter stepped closer, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of her operation. "But why? Why go to such lengths? I trusted you. As a maid, not a guardian." Lila's eyes softened slightly. "Because not everyone can survive in your world, James. There are people who would destroy you for profit, for power, for revenge. I have seen them, and I act before you even know they exist. Every move I make, every note I leave, it is all part of a plan." Her voice was calm, almost hypnotic, but the weight of her words pressed down on him. The thought that a simple servant could hold such control was terrifying and humbling. "And the note?" he asked, holding up the paper she had left under his pillow. "It was to test you," she replied. "To see if you could handle knowing the truth. Most people panic or try to fight me, but you observe, you think, you try to understand. That is why you are still alive, why your secrets are still yours. Not everyone earns that." Mr. Carter felt a shiver run down his spine. He had come to confront her, to assert control. But now he realized the shocking truth. Lila had been controlling him all along. The test, the notes, the careful movements, it wasn't about proving her loyalty. It was about proving his worth. And there is more, Lila said, stepping closer. What you've seen so far is just the beginning. I am not just here to protect. I am here to ensure the balance of power, to prevent disasters you cannot even imagine. If I had not acted, your enemies would have struck months ago. Your life would have been destroyed without you ever knowing why. Mr. Carter sank into a chair, speechless. The fear, the respect, and the awe battled inside him. The woman he had doubted, tested, and watched had always been several steps ahead. And now he understood the full truth. She was not just a maid. She was a force of nature. Lila turned toward the hidden door, ready to leave. Remember this, James, she said softly. Control is an illusion. You can observe all you want, but sometimes you must trust the unseen. And tonight you will see why. As the door closed behind her, Mr. Carter realized the reality he had never imagined. His life, his power, even his safety, were never entirely his own. And Lila's next move, whatever it might be, would change everything. Night had fallen like a velvet curtain over the mansion. Every room was silent, yet Mr. Carter's mind was louder than ever. Lila's words from earlier still echoed in his ears. Tonight, you will see why. He didn't know what to expect, but a part of him feared the answer might change everything he thought he knew. The lights in the hallway flickered as he slowly made his way toward the library, hoping to find her. But when he opened the door, the room was empty except for a faint glow coming from the hidden panel behind the bookshelf. His heart raced as he approached it. Lila's secret room was lit, monitors showing live footage of the mansion, the streets, even people in distant locations he had never seen. He felt a mix of fear and awe. How much did she know? How much control did she have? He realized that the quiet maid he had doubted, watched, and tested had been several steps ahead all along. And then he saw her, not on the monitors, but in real life, stepping out from the shadows behind the room. Lila was calm, her expression unreadable, yet there was a confidence in her eyes that made him pause. She held a small device in her hand, and with a few quick motions, she displayed information he had never imagined existed: hidden financial accounts, secret communications, even plans of people who had once tried to betray him. You see, James, she said softly, everything you think you control, you don't, but that doesn't mean it's lost. It just means it must be protected. Mr. Carter's mouth went dry. All this, you've been watching everyone? Protecting me? Planning this? Lila nodded. Not just protecting, guiding, sometimes preventing disasters before they even reach you. Your family, your business, even your life, it has been under my watch. Every move I make is to ensure balance, to prevent chaos. He tried to comprehend it, but his mind could not keep up. The magnitude of what she had done, the risks she had taken, and the knowledge she possessed, it was overwhelming. The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. He had been living in a world he barely understood, thinking he was in control, when in truth, everything had depended on her. And the tests? He asked, voice trembling. The notes, the movements, the whispers? All to see if you were ready, Lila replied. Not everyone can handle the truth. Not everyone can understand what it means to survive when the stakes are this high. You passed. For the first time, Mr. Carter felt a deep respect and a fear that was hard to describe. Lila was not just clever. She was a force, someone whose mind worked faster, whose instincts were sharper, whose courage was unmatched. The quiet maid who had seemed so ordinary was now revealed as a guardian, a strategist, and a protector beyond anything he had imagined. She stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. You must remember this, James, she said softly, her eyes locking with his. Power is never fully yours. Knowledge is never fully yours. Control is never truly yours. The only thing you can do is trust. When you must, and act. When necessary. And with that, she turned and walked toward the hidden exit, disappearing as quietly as she had arrived. Mr. Carter sank into the chair, staring at the glowing monitors. His mansion, his life, his power, all had been in the hands of the quiet maid he had underestimated. A mix of awe, fear, and gratitude filled him. He realized he would never look at Lila the same way again. She was no longer just a maid. She was a guardian, a mystery, and a force beyond comprehension. As the night deepened, Mr. Carter whispered to himself, still shaken, "She's gone. But I know she will always be watching. And somehow, I feel safer knowing that." The mansion was silent once more, but the story of Lila, the quiet maid who controlled the shadows, would never be forgotten.